Welcome to our 12 Days of Christmas daily live streams and giveaways. So we wanted to make sure that we are providing lots of great content over this Christmas holiday and while we weren't doing Game Garage. And so today we're focused on the 5th day of Christmas. Jonathan, I'm hearing a little feedback.
You're not all the way mic'd. Oh, that is someone else. Yeah.
Oh, it's not me.
No.
Can we mute somebody?
Yeah.
I'm going to mute myself.
That's not you, though.
Can you mute people?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so 5th day of Christmas is 5 golden rings. And in 5 golden rings, for some reason, I guess because birds were so valuable at the time that this song was written, the first 7 days all have to do with birds. And so 5 golden rings are not actually about rings on your fingers, but rings around a pheasant's neck. And as we start thinking of, as I was thinking about those rings around a pheasant's neck, haven't you, when you've been doing design projects, felt like you've just been going round and round and round and round these circles? There's 7 rings on a pheasant's neck. You feel like you're just 5 rings on a pheasant's neck. You feel like you're just going round and round in circles. And that can especially happen when we're starting to do branching scenarios, which are so essential in our gamified learning designs, game-based learning, because we want to give our learners as much choice as possible. And then with every action they take, there's then a consequence. And in the English language, consequence has a rather negative connotation, which is like, because my mom used to say to me, there'll be consequences, young lady, but consequence can be positive. It can be, it's just a result of an action taken. So you can have really great consequences when you take actions also. So what we want to do today is focus on the creating that magic circle of play. Jonathan wrote a great piece on the research and history of creating a magic circle and what happens when we enter that magic circle and how we're willing to accept the rules of the game once we step inside that circle. Jonathan's office here overlooks the 3rd tee of a golf course. And there's a lot of rules people have to accept that make it much more difficult for them to actually achieve that win state. They could go outside those rules,
Which they do. It's over water. It's a par 3 over water. So it's fun to watch how many people do not take the penalty. They walk it over and drop on the other side. So
they step outside that magic circle temporarily. Right. Okay. So when we think about creating that magic circle, there's a great blog. So you can follow the link to our blog at sententiagamification.com. Read the history of the magic circle and what you can do to create it. To keep our learners engaged in our programs, branching scenarios are one of the best ways to do it because of that choice and consequence, and they are in control. And so I wanted to bring on our special guest, our friend, colleague, family member, Bernardo Latafe, who is the evil mind behind our gamified platform that we use for our level 1 certification and our GameCon event. And those are completely gamified. And we do that through Bernardo's platform, which is called Blue Rabbit. And in Blue Rabbit, you can create branching scenarios. And Bernardo's philosophy, when you work with Bernardo, things that really kind of overwhelm you, he brings it down and makes it very simple by following a process. And so he's going to talk about how branching scenarios don't have to be overwhelming and feel like they're out of control, but how you can really bring them into control and highlight a little bit about Blue Rabbit. So Bernardo, welcome. We're so glad you're here with us for the 5th day of Christmas. We love seeing you and happy that you're joining us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be here. And I'm really excited about start talking about thinking this way. Yay.
Yeah.
Should I take it along?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So one of the things I should tell you is that when I started thinking about branching scenarios at the first time, I got scared. And the reason is because I was thinking about it on the how should I say this? The traditional straightforward way of looking at something that's going to branch and branch and branch and branch, which gets to the magic, dangerous word of exponential. And then every time I would talk about, hey, how do you create branching scenarios? Oh, well, you have to be very careful because it's exponential production. And then you're thinking that you're going to make one thing and that converts into two things and that converts into four things. And then it converts into 8 and then 16. And then when you realize you're gigabyte away of production and you're like, how am I going to control all of this? Well, turns out that when you start thinking in a journey setting, that's not how branching scenario works. First of all, you're not going to create an impossible to control infinite exponential amount of cases, because if you are trying to do that, I can tell you already, you're not going to finish any ever, because you cannot double yourself in terms of production capacity. So it's impossible for you to finish something that's exponentially exceeding the amount of work. So we figure out a couple of ways of understanding how to create branching scenarios and to actually take advantage of it, because you don't necessarily need to complete everything. The core idea behind branching scenarios is that players have an individual journey within the same adventure. So everybody walks the same path, but everybody experiences things in different ways. And even though there may be some choices along the way, you want them to more or less end up in the same place. I mean, think about it on mountain, walking to the top of the mountain. Everybody's going to be at the summit, but not everybody's going to be standing exactly in the same place, and nobody's going to have learned the exact same things. You have to leave space for those things, and that's where the branching centers will allow you to play with the emotions of the players and put everything into context, and not necessarily have 5,000 mountains where players are going to end up in 5,000 different summits, which is not what you want. All right. So I'm going to start sharing the screen like this. And first of all, I'm going to show you what I mean by the exponential example. So this is the traditional way of thinking. This is not a PowerPoint presentation, by the way. So I'm going to draw a couple of things here. And in a traditional way of thinking, you kind of bring up your first task here. And then after you do something, Monica was saying the word consequence has a negative connotation most of the time. And it's because we haven't understood what it actually means. Consequence is another way of saying outcome or feedback. I mean, it's what happens after something. It's not a negative thing. So the consequences of your actions are one of the most important things in gamification. When a player actually can realize what the consequences of their actions are, then they realize that what they're doing matter. So they take better steps and they make better decisions. So when you have your first scenario and you want to branch it out in different possible ways, you have your first activity here. And then whether they do A or B, it's going to be their choice. A way of doing this, one of the ways I can do this in Blue Rabbit is that I put a cost to the next activity. So let's say I'm going to grab 100 coins here on the first one. And for you to unlock any of the other ones, you have to pay 100 coins. That means this opens up only one of the two paths. All right. Now, it would be impossible to try and control and design all of these outcomes, because the next step would be 16 things and then 32 things. And then it would become really, 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 really hard to get all the way through. So instead of thinking about it like this, what we do in Blue Rabbit is something more like this. So the players, one of the things that you understand is that the players do not have the possibility of doing everything. So first of all, relax about that. The players are not going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until they finish everything, unless they have, let's say, 6 months of time and there's not enough content on the game you're building. And then they might go back and take a second round, or they might go back and try a second step. But your journeys should look a little bit like this. And as you can see, you can offer different choices. This is one task, a second task, and a third task. And then they can all actually guide you to different steps, but not the exponential amount of steps. You can draw your design like this, and your journey doesn't have to necessarily be super insanely complex. All right, so I'm going to draw one line here to see what happens if I take the decisions on the top only. So I can go up here, and then I can go all the way through here, down here, and here maybe I have 5 different rewards that I want the players to take, and maybe, I don't know, all of them cost 100 points, and the players can collect. I have to make sure that they collect at least 100 points, but I just make sure they cannot collect 200 points. And that way, I simply automatically, by the beautiful power of math, block the players from choosing everything or choosing 2 outcomes when I want them only to choose one of them. The key behind it is that I'm not using only one metric to measure the progress of the players. I am using 2 of them. And one of them blocks certain things in the progression. It's not only that, you can see the numbers up here. So this is not only about the level the player is at. So when the player is at level 1, you offer them a lot of stuff for free. When they go into level 2, they have to complete the first steps. And then in level 3, there is only one thing, but only if you took the path on the bottom. And then on level 4, there's more stuff. So you split it like that. And again, the amount of activities here is not nearly as complex as the amount of activities when we start thinking about the infinite exponential. And this way, you can design any journey with individual experiences. Let me show you what happens normally with Blue Rabbit is even with 5 or 6 different rows here of content, you can have up to 500 different outcomes from all the players. You never see the same straight line. I'm going to show you a screen on how it looks like, and this is from one of the Gamicon's events. This is from 48B last year, and this is going to look a little scary, so please bear with me. All right, now I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but you can see the this row, for example, that has a lot of check marks, right? This is a player who was trying to do almost everything possible in the system. They were doing almost every single thing. Now, where I can test or I can measure more or less what their journey looks like is here on the purple side. You can see what achievements and what magic words they have actually earned. So you can see that not anyone has everything. Everybody has a different experience, and many of them have almost all of these achievements earned, which probably are required to level up or to do some things. But you can see how there are additional achievements all around the place that they can earn depending on their own choices. Those achievements can unlock content, and I will get into that later. So not one single player has the exact same line. You can see that every single line is completely different. Each of them choose different things to do, and based on that, they can level up, earn more things or less, and they can grow all the way together to get to the last part of the journey. Now, the end of the journey, which is the latest consequence of everything, if it's going to be something like this part here, for example, you can all point that a requirement for that is one of the rewards before, and then you have all of them facing the final challenge or the final boss or whatever you want. But everybody's going to end up there with a different item. One of them might have a bottle of wine, the other one might have the turkey, the other one might have the potatoes, everybody has the cranberry sauce, and that way you build your Thanksgiving party, right? So trying to think that every player needs to fulfill everything is exactly why the branching scenarios in most of the designs fail, because people are, how am I going to get everybody to do everything? You don't. You have to make it so everybody can reach the end with different skills. And the only way you can actually achieve that is if you're not measuring one thing from all the players. This happens when players are only measured by the fantastic or almost overused term experience points. If you're only talking about experience points and yes, 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 I have to have my level or levels or stages or belts or whatever. If it's only one thing, you cannot become a dynamic system. If you think about it this way, now, while in this scenario, your design starts opening up, what you actually want on this one is the opposite shape. You want your scenario to actually close up. You want the players to come from many choices, little by little, come together to one choice. And now, one of another thing that you can do with branching scenario is you can have a fail stage, a fail step, a fail part. What happens if I made the wrong choices and I fail? Turns out that, let's say that the only right choice, I'm going to put this like a sun here. This was the only right choice, and everything else was going to be a fail. So you don't have to design 200 different outcomes. It's one fail outcome and one successful outcome. And then the players, based on their choices, get there. And if they don't choose the right thing because they didn't read the small letters or whatever, right, the fine print and anything, then you can just fail them and then see how they are frustrated by their own mistakes and come back and try again. So far, so good, or am I going too fast?
No, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah, I think it's, well, I've been through it a few times, so I shouldn't be the one speaking. Yeah, but I love that we create a fail state that gives them a chance to try again, Bernardo, because
Yeah.
most times we do not do that. We don't, it's fail, or we give them the answer. We don't let them try again to achieve it themselves. We just hand it to them.
Exactly, and that behavior is really easy to repeat because I don't know where or who started this way of thinking about saying you can only attempt a test once in your life. And then, I mean, we've been out of school for how many years? I mean, for me, I've been out of school for 20 years. And still, it's like, hey, guys, seriously, why do I have to attempt one test once if there's nothing in life that goes like that? So even though you can fail something, maybe you can come back and try again and find out what the other branching scenario was or what the right choice was. That's always a fantastic way of doing it. And one of the examples I wanted to give is this, which is our closing. It was our closing fight in the 48B last year, where you would face a dragon, and then you have to make some choices. But this is a very easy and very simple and straightforward branching scenario. It's just one scene based on a series of amount of other decisions that you take before. But this is the last fight. And all you have to do is make sure that you have purchased the right amount of items and read a little bit about the instructions. But in here, exactly what you said about the fail state, if I choose the wrong element here, it will tell me that I am not ready, you need to prepare more, and it's going to tell me that the quest is failed, right? So I have to try again, and when I try again, I just go back to the beginning, right? Now, here's a good question that I'm gonna leave for some of you. How can you control for certain the difficulty of a task in a gamified environment when the players, all of them, have different skills? Everybody has a different level of skill. Everybody has a different level of capacity, of experience. Everybody has done something different because when you do gamification, you're dealing with life. You're not dealing with pixels and vectors and things that you can control in math with 100 variables. How could you control the difficulty of something that is technically out of your control? Anybody? The way I do it is with accuracy. You can be as good as you want to be, and you can be the CEO of the company, and you can know almost everything. You may have, I don't know, an eidetic memory or whatever. But what I do is I use accuracy. And this is where a third metric comes in play, which in this case is called vitality points. every time you fail something in Blue Rabbit, I can take that toll from your vitality points, which you have to recover by doing grinding work. And that way, your branching scenario can become a very interesting thing where you start saying, all right, I'm gonna write down, let's say 10 points here, 10 points here, and 10 points here. It's gonna cost you energy, but energy in terms of physical energy or fake physical energy. If you make the wrong choices, you're gonna end up spending more energy than you actually can carry. So you're gonna, maybe if you get to this point and you run out of energy because I don't know, you started with 50 and you went up here and then this way and then, oh no, wait, I wanted to go this way. Oh wait, this way. Oh no, that way. And when you get here, you already spent your 50 points, so you cannot go further. That's another way of controlling with 3 levels or 2 levels in your branching scenarios. You're controlling the difficulty for the players, and you're not allowing them to go all the way to the end or to experience it completely differently, and making sure that the next time they come back, they take another hit or another approach. Coming back to our example here, this screen here is how all the steps of that last fight look like. Again, Blue Rabbit is not the super mega produced high-tech forms with 100 million graphic elements behind it. It's a list of steps that you have to follow. And when you edit one of those steps, it's going to give you a couple of codes telling you which step's the next one, and then you just work your way through the next one and next step and the next step and the next step until at some point, let me see here if you didn't do it. There has to be somewhere where you use Blade Dragon, you're blah, 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 blah. No dragon, they're silent, wrong here. I have one wrong step here, okay? And here I created a button that says when you click on it, you fail the quest. So you have to start over. And you come back to this step several times over the challenge. If you make their mistakes, you get it here. So you can add a failed step back to it. And as you can see, there are several commands that are very simple to choose. One is finish the quest, which should be the last command that you put when you are on the successful step of the scenario. You can have a previous step, you can have a next step. You can open your backpack to see what items you have available, or you can link to the item shop to go and purchase them and come back and try again and start from the beginning. And by listing your activities, what I always do, the easiest way to do it is list the steps, do a diagram a little bit like this one, which is very easy to do on paper and very hard to do on the computer. So stop trying to use everything digital. When you put this on paper, it's fantastically easy. I even have this built with some tiles, wooden tiles, some hexagon wooden tiles and magnets on the back. And I use my whiteboard and I put them around and I move them. And I see exactly how I want the scenario to build. And then this can easily become this other thing here, because you just write your steps and then you go, let's say, I'm going to design first, I'm going to go with step 1, okay? So that's the number 1 thing. Then I go with step 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right? Now, on the next one, I'm going to use a different color. I go back and I start with this step, this one here, this one here, this already created, and then I go with this one. And then I go with this one here, wait, next color. Then I go with this one here, this created, and then go with this one, and this one. And lastly, this last one, which is the success element. And I know that I talk about it sometimes lightly, it seems, because I have processed it very well. But what I can tell you is it didn't take a long time for me to pass from being scared about the exponential possibilities into understanding it into even though you want to have as many branching scenarios as possible, you really don't want to spread yourself outside so much. And I'm currently working with another gamification colleague in a new software that is actually going to allow you to create those journeys. And we're limiting the amount of possible outcomes that you can have. It's definitely because at the beginning we have, hey, what if you can do infinite, like all the, and it was like, there's no point to it. Nobody does infinite steps or don't know, there's no control to it. All right. So we have to be careful and we have to be conscious that when you create, and this is a preview of that software a little bit, but you have to be careful that when you create the scenario, you're not actually branching out to 100 places, but you can do something fairly simple and fairly easy if you have a couple of steps and a couple of restrictions, and then you get your players to work in the right direction. So all you do is start with the basics, close it down, and I want you to think about it in the opposite way. Instead of thinking that your branching scenario is going to be like that, opening up, I need you to think about it as you close it. Because in here, at the end, you can have maybe 2 or 3 possible outcomes. And this is far easier to see that backwards, you could have started with 1 here, and then you close it down, rather than thinking about opening it up and then ending up with a million possible things that I will never have the time to finish. This way, I have built almost every single possible experience in Blue Rabbit for the past almost, almost 8 years now. Almost 9 years. It's almost 2023. I'm sorry. So it's a lot for the players to try to do everything, but when they start finding their consequence and everything, they just kind of go with the flow. They realize that they are earning enough points to progress, and suddenly they're having the time of their lives throughout the journey. And then they look at another player and they say, hey, you did that. Oh, how did you do that? I wanted to do that. Oh, I cannot. Oh, no worry, I will do the other thing, or I will purchase this other item, or I will get this other thing. And they stop trying to compete or to be perfect. I just heard a couple of months ago in one of my daughter's cartoons, the best possible phrase ever. If I tell you practice makes, how do you complete that phrase? Practice makes
Perfect.
perfect, right? Well, the phrase they use is practice makes better. And when you understand all the implications that simple change of a word has, it should be used on absolutely every single possible learning environment. Practice makes better, makes you forget completely about perfection, about one chance, about not being able to to fulfill expectations. It turns everything down to you should not be able to fail once. 2, you should be able to fail as many times as you want, become better and better and better and better. Because if you think about Usain Bolt, he's the fastest man alive. He has run as fast as everybody else. But maybe in a couple of years, somebody's going to come and is going to run 1 centesimal faster than him. So was his run perfect or not? What's going on here? So it doesn't matter. We are always getting better and closer to a more perfect state, but we're never going to reach it. And this is one of the greatest learnings I had from my own gamification design experience. I don't have to make the perfect journey. I just have to make a better one for everybody. And I have to make sure that they choose the best outcome. And the only way to do that is offering them. So yeah, that's basically how I make my branching scenarios. Yes, Monica.
I'm wondering if you could go back to the screen where you were showing the 48V, the final battle last year, where you had the 3 currencies. And I just wanted us to go through that one more time, because there you go. Because for most gamified platforms, LMSs, when people are gamifying programs, they use like the legendary points, which would be the equivalent of XP.
Yes.
And so what Bernardo does is, like, your legendary points is you can legendary points get you moving, but it doesn't get you access to things. It just gives you the ability to access things.
Yeah.
So explain to us the three currencies so that because I want to make sure that everybody gets this, because this is essential in gamification design that's going to be engaging for your learners.
Yeah, so exactly. So the legendary points here are the experience points, and I use those to level the player up. So hey, I'm gonna be a level 10, level 20, level whatever. You use these points to count what position, if you want to see on in terms of levels. I don't want to use the word leaderboard because it's kind of like not exactly what it means, but you can have different levels for the players to offer them more complicated quests or challenges further down the road. But it also gives them a sense of progression. If I am a level 15, I know that I have been here for a while. If I'm a level 2, I know I'm a newbie. And if somebody else sees me as a number 2, then they might help me when they are higher level. And again, as Monica said, almost everybody uses them. And it's the most common mistake I see is that it's the only points they use. They want to calculate everything under one single system. But then you have the currency. The second one, the dragon scales are currency. I call them blue in Blue Rabbit, and it's basically points that you can exchange for things. You can exchange those for items in the item shop, unlock challenges, or retry some certain attempts. I think that's the only three things that you normally use them for, but it gives me a lot of control on what the players have access to, because you can create a key item that costs 500 points, and if you don't purchase that specific key item, you don't have access to the next quest, even if that quest is at your available level. So you can lock the player regardless of all the progress they have had. If they have not done or chosen or purchased certain things, they won't have access to the following things. And the last one is the vitality points. That it's I call them energy. Energy points are it's a type of point system that you can recharge, but you have a limit. So depending on your level, you have access to X amount. If you're level 1, you only have 130. If here, I think I'm a level 40 or something like that, I have 1200 energy points. What I do with that is I control the difficulty of certain challenges in Blue Rabbit by making sure that the player has to be very accurate. If you say, I don't know, this is going to be a level 20 challenge, and I know that the maximum amount of energy that they can have is 1200, then I'm going to make sure, if I want it to be 100% accurate, maybe you make it, I don't know, 12 steps, and each step costs 100 energy points. So if you make one mistake, you have to start over, right? So that's what I use the energy points for. It's a way of controlling that accuracy from the players. Now, I can make something super complicated like that, or I can be a little bit more indulgent, which is what I always suggest. You have to always keep the players around 70 to 80% accuracy of everything, because that's more or less what people tend to point out. There may be one player that it's perfect and they have 100% accuracy. Fantastic, go to the Olympics. Everybody else, the 99.999999999%, we should be having a little bit more space to have fun and not feel all the pressure. Because I'm happier when the players do 800 activities than when they do 10 perfect activities. It's and this was analyzed. I can't remember the name of the book right now. Will Wright talks about it in his master class. I'll get it to you. But they explain on our class how one group was told that they are going to be graded in one pot they make, and then the rest of the group is going to be graded on the amount of pots they made. And then by the end of the semester, the players who did one pot had a lot less quality compared to the ones who had were doing a lot of them, because practice makes better.
Better practice.
So that's more or less what these metrics help you design in your adventures.
All right, so I hope everyone gets that. Now, we will be using the Blue Rabbit, and we love the Leaders and Legend journey that Bernardo created for us in the Blue Rabbit platform last year so much that we're coming back with season 2 for GameCon 48V this year, because it was just an epic adventure, and we want to revisit it because it feels like it just flew past us so quickly, and we don't want to let it go. So you can see, you can gather your armor. It's just a delightful journey with dragons, and the goal is for you to challenge yourself to become a leader and a legend and defeat the dragon by engaging actively in the sessions and participating with your fellow colleagues who are at GameCon 48V, participating with the speakers, doing challenges, trying things out, failing, trying it again. It's all part of the learning process. So a couple things here. Magic code, I promised you. So I'll put it in the chat here in what is this? Zoom. In Zoom, so that we can see it. It's 5 golden rings. So if you email that to myself or Jonathan at bighead@sententiagames.com, mail us that magic code, and he'll send you a link where you can choose a 30-minute coaching session, and you can tell us what you're looking for, and we can match you with who we think would be best for that coaching session out of our master craftsmen. Or if you have someone you would specifically like to have that coaching session with, just let us know that. Say, I'd like to have 30 minutes with Bernardo, or with Big Head Jonathan Peters, or with Monica, who will talk about all things gamification. Any questions you have about gamified learning, game-based learning, any specific strategy. And if you don't know, but you say, hey, I want to explore this more, then we'll give you a couple options of who we think would be best out of our gamification master craftsmen, who would be great for a coaching session with you. So please email that 5 golden rings magic code to bighead@sententiagames.com, and we'll get you set up. Bernardo has another special giveaway for you. This is special. This is fantastic. This is extra golden.
I will give away one full year license to Blue Rabbit to whoever answers the following question.
Ooh.
And I'm typing it down so that nobody says like, hey, you didn't say that. No, yeah.
Or I didn't hear that.
And you have to answer it over an email. And I'm typing down my email so that you know that I have it. And it's not a mistake that, oh, I said it in loud voice. But so you write to me with the answer of that, and there you go. It's fairly easy because we talked a lot about them. So I hope that you can see that. Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right,
So,
send that to Bernardo. So let's see. This is the 5 golden rings. Bernardo, thank you so much. You can see why we use Blue Rabbit and why people love it. Again, as Bernardo said, when people are first getting into it, it's just like any game that you're learning. It's like, okay, what is that? How does that work? But once you start getting into it, it starts to become what's the word I'm looking for? It makes sense. It's logical. The gameplay really works for you. You understand your next steps. And at GameCon 48V, we'll be using the platform. And of course, our master craftsmen will be there to help answer questions and help make connections for you and make sure that you're getting that hands-on practice, because practice makes better. I use, because I like alliteration, practice makes proficient, but I think better is better than proficient, because proficient still is pretty close to perfect, right?
yeah.
So yeah. All right. Tomorrow we'll be back with 6 geese a laying, and that will be for an unscheduled, but we're doing a game garage. So before we reopen the game garage for good in January, we're doing a special session of game garage. It'll be tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'll make sure that you've got the links. It'll be a Zoom access just like this. And at the game garage, because it's 6 geese a laying, what do you think we'll be playing with? What's the idea you think we might be exploring? with six geese a laying. Anyone got an idea? You can feel
Hmm.
free to unmute if you'd like to, or you can type it in chat. Six geese a laying.
Are we
Gamified
playing
learning, game-based
Settlers of
learning.
Catan?
Hey, Steve Abrams. Anyone
Okay.
got it? We're going to be exploring Easter eggs.
Easter eggs.
The game mechanic of Easter eggs and how we can use them for surprise and delight, exploration, further challenges, quests, rewards, lots of different branching choices. There's lots of different ways we can use Easter eggs. So we're going to bring that mechanic in and we'll play with different ways that it can be used and explore how you might use it in your learning program. So that'll be tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Central Time in an unscheduled but fun game garage. So Bernardo, thank you so much. Looking forward to another hugely successful GameCon 48V in a couple months. And Bernardo's going to come and do a game garage with us on the 27th of January, where we'll do a little bit more practice on branching scenarios.
Yep.
So you can actually start doing some mapping. He'll show you his wooden magnets, things, wooden, and show you how you can start mapping those. So thank you, Bernardo. We love you. Have a great holiday. Everyone, thank you for being with us, everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays.
New Year.
Thank
All
you.
right. Happy Hanukkah. All right. Happy New Year.
Happy
All right,
New
bye.
Year.